The man who played the role of Chris Gardner in the movie The Pursuit of Happyness was actually homeless and has since become a millionaire. Are you ready to be inspired? Let's go. It all started when Chris Gardner was just 9 years old and growing up in Wisconsin. His parents couldn't do anything together without arguing, and eventually they ended up getting divorced. And after the divorce, he went to live with his father while his mother went to live with his grandmother. But then Chris's father remarried, but his stepmother wasn't that nice to him. She constantly told him how useless he was and basically treated him like a servant in their house. He had to clean the house and do all the other stuff for them. And one day she even said something that broke his heart. She said, "You're nothing but a burden. Your mother would have been better off leaving you at the welfare office." This made him so angry that he ran out of their house and never looked back. From that point, he never had a real home again. Instead, he bounced around from place to place, staying at friends' houses and sometimes even sleeping on the streets. When he was 14 years old, he started skipping school to work odd jobs so that he could earn some money. He worked as a shoeshine boy and did odd jobs here and there until he eventually saved up enough money to buy himself a used car. With that car, he started working as a limo driver, which paid way better than shined shoes. So he could make up to $300 every weekend. But despite having a steady income, he still didn't have a place to call home. So when he turned 18 years old, he joined the U.S. Navy. He thought that now he would finally have a home and a family, but it turned out to be quite the opposite. He struggled with fitting in and felt lonely. After being in the Navy for 3 years, he decided to quit. And after quitting, he became even more lost than before. But then he met a woman named Shirley, who became his wife. At least he thought that he married a good woman because she was very ambitious and hardworking. In fact, she was working towards becoming a secretary at the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. But unfortunately, during that time, the lady that was working as a secretary retired and Shirley got the job. However, her salary wasn't high at all. They lived in an apartment with a broken stove, no heat, and rats. It was terrible. Plus, Chris couldn't find a decent job either. So when Shirley got pregnant with their first child, things got really hard for him. He had to take care of his wife and the baby, but he barely earned any money. Eventually, he had to sell his car so that he could pay for rent and food. But even after selling the car, they still couldn't make ends meet. So Chris tried everything from working security to waiting tables to being a limo driver. But nothing worked. They were evicted from their apartment and became homeless. They started staying at shelters and couch surfing at friends' places. Chris even had to put his infant son in a stroller outside of the house while he slept inside. And oftentimes his son would cry throughout the night, but he couldn't do anything about it. Sometimes he would get approached by people asking him if he wanted to make $1,000 per day, and when he agreed, they would say, "All you have to do is tell us where you can steal it from." But Chris refused to do that because he didn't want to become a criminal. Despite all these struggles, Chris never gave up, and his hard work and perseverance eventually paid off. He started applying for jobs at brokerage firms and eventually landed a job at Bear Stearns as an intern in the stock brokerage department. He took the job even though he didn't get paid at all. He simply wanted to learn the ins and outs of the stock market. During that time, he learned everything about stocks, bonds, and other financial instruments, and in his free time, he continued looking for a real job. Finally, after 6 months of interning, he got a job at Dean Witter. Even though he was making less than he did as a limo driver, he was happy because now he had a steady income that he could use to support his family. But then his son got sick with pneumonia, and he had to take a leave from work. Since he had only been working there for a few weeks, he didn't have any paid time off. So he had to borrow money from his boss in order to take time off. But his boss agreed under one condition, that he would work extra hours to compensate for the days he was taking off. So Chris had to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. He hardly had any time for himself, and he was exhausted all the time. But he knew that he had to do it for his son. One day he woke up early in the morning and opened up a drawer to grab his tie. But instead of finding a tie, he found a note that said, "Effective immediately. Your employment with the company is terminated. Of course, he was furious because they didn't give him any reason as to why they fired him, and he needed money to take care of his son. So he went straight to the office to talk to his boss. He said, "I'm not even sick yet. Why did you fire me?" But his boss didn't give him any explanation. He just said, "If you want an explanation, then ask Smith. He's the one who made that decision." So Chris went to see Smith, but he got the same response. He, too, said that he should talk to someone else. Basically, no one was willing to tell him why they fired him. After hearing that, Chris realized that he couldn't take this lying down. So he went back home and called the president of the company. He said, "I've always worked extra hours whenever you needed me to, but when I need time off, you won't give it to me. I'm calling you to tell you that I quit." Then he hung up the phone. At that moment, Chris promised himself that he would never work for anyone else ever again. Instead, he would work for himself. Now that he had nothing to lose, he dedicated every waking hour of his life to perfecting his craft and becoming the best in the industry. And within a few years, he had built up a clientele of over $100 million. He accomplished all of this while being a single dad. He worked hard to provide for his family, and eventually he was able to move them into a nice house. And not only that, he was able to buy many luxury cars for them. But despite having achieved all of this success, he never forgot where he started. In fact, he started the Chris Gardner Foundation for Financial Education to help underprivileged youth become financially independent. And in 2006, he co-founded the Youth Leadership Institute to empower young adults to achieve their dreams. After hearing his story, you might think that he's just lucky that the movie was made about his life. Otherwise, no one would know about him today. But that's not true. Yes, the movie definitely helped spread awareness about him, but it was his relentless hard work and dedication that made him successful in the first place. No matter how bad your situation is, if you work hard and stay dedicated, then you can achieve anything you want. That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed this story. If you liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to be inspired by these type of stories. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time. Now, what's the biggest challenge you have faced in your life? Share with us in the comments below. We would love to hear your story.